Wait, did you hear the bell? What bell? We're here. Oh, come on.
Before it became a rolling symbol of peace and rebellion, the Volkswagen Microbus was born out of pure practicality. In the aftermath of World War II, Europe was rebuilding and there was a growing need for simple, affordable transportation, both for people and for goods. Volkswagen, already gaining traction with the success of the Beetle, set out to create a larger, more versatile vehicle that could carry heavier loads but still be compact and economical. The result was the Volkswagen Type 2, introduced in 1949. It was unlike anything else on the road. Built on the same rear-engine, rear-wheel drive platform as the Beetle, it featured a flat, spacious floor, a boxy shape, and large windows that gave it a distinctive, friendly appearance. It wasn't sleek or fast, but it was approachable, practical, adaptable. The design was ingeniously simple. Its engine was small, initially just 1.1 liters, but it was reliable and easy to fix. The flat front allowed for maximum interior space, and the rear-mounted engine meant that there was no bulky drivetrain taking up room in the middle. It could seat several people, carry tools and supplies, or be converted into a camper. It was marketed towards small business owners, tradesmen, and families. It wasn't flashy, but it got the job done. What no one anticipated was how this humble workhorse would find second life, not in factories or job sites, but in campgrounds, coastal highways, and protest marches. The same traits that made it perfect for plumbers and delivery drivers would also make it irresistible to a new generation searching for freedom, connection, and something different from the status quo. The VW Microbus wasn't designed to make a statement, but that's exactly what made it so powerful. It was blank, honest, and ready for anything. And in the hands of the 1960s counterculture, it became so much more than a means of transportation. It became a vehicle for change. By the time the 1960s rolled around, the Volkswagen Microbus had already proven itself to be a dependable, affordable vehicle for the everyday worker and family. But on the fringes of society, a different group was starting to take notice. These were the young people disillusioned with post-war conformity. They were the so-called hippies who rejected materialism, authority, and the rigid expectations of the American dream. They wanted something else, something slower, freer, and more communal. And they found their perfect companion in the VW bus. It didn't take much to see the appeal. The Microbus was cheap, far less expensive than most cars on the market, and easy to maintain. You didn't need to be a mechanic to fix one. Many owners kept a toolkit in the back and learned to tinker with the engine themselves. Gas mileage was decent, insurance was low, and the interior could be stripped down or modified with relative ease. People began pulling out the seats, laying down blankets, and turning their buses into rolling homes. For a generation on the move, the Microbus wasn't just a way to get somewhere, it was the destination. Groups of friends piled in and hit the road with no real plan, following the sun, the music, or the next protest. They drove cross-country to love-ins in San Francisco, spiritual retreats in New Mexico, or cultural flashpoints like the March on Washington. And when Woodstock arrived in 1969, the VW bus was everywhere, stuck in traffic, parked in muddy fields, and painted in wild swirling colors. It had become more than a vehicle. It was a lifestyle on wheels. It also stood out for what it wasn't. In a time when muscle cars and polished sedans represented status and speed, the VW Microbus proudly went against the grain. It wasn't about horsepower. It was about harmony. It didn't boast chrome and leather. It offered space, simplicity, and peace. As the counterculture movement grew more vocal, the VW Microbus evolved from a blank canvas into a bold statement, literally. Owners began decorating their buses with hand-painted artwork that spoke directly to the values and spirit of the time. No two were ever alike. Some were covered in psychedelic patterns, vibrant swirls of neon flowers, rainbows, and cosmic scenes. Others bore peace signs, anti-war slogans, or names of communes and rock bands. These weren't just vehicles, they were personal manifestos on wheels. In a decade defined by protest, the bus became both a mode of transport and a message. It carried demonstrators to civil rights marches and anti-Vietnam War rallies. It was parked outside universities during sit-ins and roamed the streets of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district during the Summer of Love. It showed up wherever people were challenging the system, standing for peace and seeking new ways of living. When someone saw a microbus coming down the road, they knew it meant one thing: the counterculture had arrived. The physical appearance of the bus played a big role in this symbolism. Its rounded corners and wide-eyed headlights gave it an approachable, almost cartoonish look. It didn't intimidate, it invited. People weren't afraid to walk up and talk to the person behind the wheel. In many ways, it became a mobile community center. It was where people gathered to talk, eat, sleep, even dream. Inside its modest frame, the microbus held a sense of freedom that couldn't be found in traditional homes or mainstream society. As the 1970s came to a close and the counterculture movement began to fade, the VW microbus didn't disappear, it became a legend. Its image, once common on American roads, was now frozen in time through photography, film, music, and memory. Everywhere you looked, the bus was there, parked in grainy Woodstock photos, rolling through scenes in road trip movies, or sitting under the California sun in music videos. It wasn't just a vehicle anymore, it was a time capsule. Movies like Little Miss Sunshine and documentaries about the 60s often featured the microbus as a shorthand for freedom, dysfunction, and beauty all wrapped in one. Even animated films like Cars gave it a spiritual role, in that case, as a peace-loving character named Fillmore. In every portrayal, the bus was more than a machine. It was a symbol of resistance, eccentricity, and community. It was the ultimate underdog vehicle, with a big heart and an even bigger story to tell. Musicians also kept the legend alive, whether it was Grateful Dead fans traveling the country in buses plastered with dancing bears and tie-dye, or indie artists referencing the van in lyrics and album art. The microbus remained part of the creative bloodstream of American culture. Bands toured in them, couples got married in them, and travelers built entire Instagram pages around restoring and living in vintage buses. And as nostalgia took hold in the decades that followed, interest in the VW microbus only grew. Enthusiasts began restoring old models, sometimes spending tens of thousands of dollars to bring them back to life. Vintage car shows, online forums, and fan clubs celebrated the microbus not just for its looks, but for what it represented: a different way of moving through the world. In an age of high-speed internet and fast food, the bus reminded people of a time when the journey really did matter more than the destination. More than half a century after its rise to fame, the Volkswagen Microbus still stands as one of the most powerful symbols of the 1960s counterculture. It was never about the specs, speed, or brand. It was about what it allowed people to do: live freely, think differently, and connect deeply with others. It turned the road into a home, strangers into friends, and rebellion into something tangible. The bus became an unlikely hero of a generation looking to escape the rigid framework of modern life. It offered something no other vehicle could: flexibility without pressure, style without ego, and meaning without pretension. Whether it's painted with peace signs, filled with guitar cases and sleeping bags, or just carrying wide-eyed travelers into the unknown, the VW microbus helped shape a movement not by leading it, but by following wherever it needed to go. Even today, in an era of electric cars and digital maps, the microbus holds a kind of magic. Volkswagen is even bringing it back in electric form with the ID Buzz, a modern tribute to the spirit of the original. It won't be quite the same, of course, but maybe that's the point. The original wasn't meant to be replicated. It was meant to remind us what happens when you slow down, open the door, and let life in. Because in the end, the microbus wasn't just transportation. It was transformation. And that's why it's still rolling, not just on roads, but in the minds and hearts of everyone who dares to imagine a freer, more colorful world.